Welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. As you know, the Ninth Circuit has completely ruled against Trump on the Muslim ban, and he is going to issue another executive order where he's going to try to, issue it under the Constitution. We'll see what happens. But I wanted to talk in this video a little bit about the rights of immigrants, non-immigrants, even people who have no status here, as well as citizens and residents. It is called the First Amendment to the Constitution, and the fact that it is the First Amendment should indicate that there is some significance to the fact that of the entire Constitution, of all of the rights that we were given by our founding fathers, that they most definitely found the First Amendment and made the First Amendment in which to indicate that it is the most important of the rights that we as a nation have. And again, the rights that are given by the First Amendment are guaranteed essentially to anyone who is here in the United States. And that's not just U.S. citizens. It's not just lawful permanent residents, as much as some people would like to believe that if you're not a citizen here, you have no rights. The fact of the matter is that the First Amendment deals with the absolute most fundamental rights that we as a nation have, and why people from around the world want to come to the U.S. It deals with the fact that there'll be basically no laws that either establish a religion or prohibit the exercise of religion. It deals with the rights of not abridging freedom of speech or freedom of the press. And it goes on with a couple other very important matters, but I wanted you to know. Let me just read it here. What exactly is the First Amendment? It's really very small, but the rights are incredibly inclusive and powerful to our nation. So it says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That is the First Amendment to the United States. So the reason I bring this up is in this very short First Amendment, it deals specifically with there'll be nothing essentially that abridges the freedom of speech or of the press. So the founding fathers had obviously found it incredibly important to make sure that there'll be no abridging of the freedom of the press. And the question is why? Why did the founding fathers think that the freedom of press was so important that it had to be placed in the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States? Well, the press essentially is what allows the truth to come out. And obviously, there are reports that you can disagree with, there are reports that you can agree with, there are conflicting reports, there are some reports that go into heavy detail of the facts, there's some reports that are light on the facts and go into lots of speculation. However it is, the interplay between all of the various agencies which constitute the press, ultimately the truth comes out. So if you have a government that oppresses the press, that punishes the press, that stops the press, that limits the press, what does that do? It basically inhibits the truth from coming out. It allows that government to do things, to go places, to rule on matters, to make orders, to issue various orders that are either against the Constitution, are in violation of the Constitution, are against the people, or violate in several different manners items which cannot be checked, cannot be reported on, cannot get to the actual people upon which the government is governing. So it gets down to the core of our basic principles as a country if the press is being limited, or if it is being shut down, or if it essentially is prohibited from properly reporting. So, why do I bring all this up right now? I mean, am I talking about North Korea? Am I talking about Russia? Am I talking about another communist country somewhere? Am I talking about a dictatorship somewhere? No. I'm talking about the United States. And Trump has repeatedly said that the press is the enemy of the American people. Now, when you hear this, it comes off as being ludicrous, right? So you don't take it seriously. You just don't think that it could possibly be serious. Or Trump gives a news conference and he shuts CNN down because he says you're fake news. So it doesn't let them ask questions. Um, so you need to look, and we need to look as a people more seriously about the issues that are occurring when Trump and members of his cabinet and the chief of the White House all come out essentially and say that the press is the enemy of the American people. It is dangerous talk. It is dangerous talk because what it is doing is it is starting a pattern of attempting to limit the press, to limit the truth, and to inhibit the First Amendment rights which were specifically given to the press in the United States Constitution. They did that so that when leaders came into power and wanted to do exactly what Trump is doing now, that the Constitution would come up and would protect the freedoms upon which the press has. They're not just going to Trump and asking questions because they just feel like they want to get a day's work. They need to get the truth out, and the fact is that Trump is governing 350 million people. It is the people who have the right to know what he is doing. The press is not our enemy. Okay, the press protects us and gives us the truth. Now, if Trump really thought that the press was the enemy, why does he always go to Fox News? Why does he always interview with Fox News? Why does he always quote what Fox News says? Um, for example, last night when he was giving his pep rally in Florida, and he said something to the effect of the terrors that occurred in Sweden, of which there was none. There was nothing, right? And then he quoted and said, well, he meant what Fox News had, or what they said. Well, obviously he was incorrect, and the mainstream media brought out the truth. So he can't just lie and say things that are not true and start little by little to chip away at the constitutional rights of people in the United States. We are not a dictatorship. We are not a communist country. We are a democracy, and it is the Constitution that rules us, and the press needs to be available, whether you agree or disagree with the press. They are there to ultimately give the truth and to foster debate and to report on what's happening so that the people can make their own decisions on what it is they need to do, how they need to act, what's happening with their government, and whether or not their constitutional rights and their rights of freedoms are being violated. So, if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian or the Green Party, it doesn't matter. If the constitutional rights, especially the First Amendment rights, are being attacked by the President of the United States, there needs to be action that is taken to bring about change so that this nonsense of the statements that the press is the enemy of the people doesn't just get ignored because it's ridiculous or ludicrous, and it's just Trump saying something silly again. It needs to be respected for what it is, and it is an attempt to shut off the press and to stop the reporting of what's happening so that the immigrants, the non-immigrants, the residents, the U.S. citizens, and again, even people who are not here legally, that they all have the right of the First Amendment, which has been afforded to them while inside here in the United States. So I bring this video hopefully to enlighten and to attempt to explain the absolute seriousness of going on TV like Trump does time after time again, claiming that the press is the enemy of the people. Don't let that pass by without realizing what is he's attempting to do and what we as a people need to do in order to maintain the First Amendment rights that were given by the founding fathers. Okay, more on the coming videos.